So that's why we try to develop those relationships to where we can have that candid conversation with the owner and say, damn it, no, man, you can't do, I mean, yeah, sure. If you have to pay him.
Yeah.
And, if you want to pay them, fine. But no, we can't force that, whether it's a change order thing or even quality issues. I've had a customer go around with a straight edge on all the slabs. He's like, look at this. I'm going to bring marbles tomorrow and I'm going to put marbles in all these hallways. And I said, okay. I said, here's the thing. I said, there are super flat floors out there, but that's not what you paid for. I was like, that's not what a school ought to have. That's what, an industrial facility has to have. I said, you could have that, but it'd be you wouldn't have been able to afford it with the budget we had. Those kinds of conversations are had often.
And when the GC joins the dance midstream, he may not even know the dance, right? It's like he
does
the dance. I can't do a square dance. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Proper Precon Podcast, where we talk about the people, processes, decisions, and technology shaping pre-construction. I'm Trey Darnell.
I'm Troy Simon. Today we're going to be looking at the construction process from the owner's side of the table. The title of today's episode is Before the Bid, What Owners Need to Get Right Early.
A lot of people think the bid's when the cost of a project is determined, but by the time a project goes out to bid, many of the decisions that will determine its cost, schedule, risk, and ultimate success have already been made. Some were made intentionally, others have been made simply by waiting too long to address them. Our guests today help owners navigate those early decisions. Charles Bradshaw and Sloan Walker are program managers with Scout Program Management out of Birmingham, Alabama. Both of them also happen to be people I worked with earlier in my construction career. We all worked at Hoare Construction. Charles and Sloan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here, guys.
Likewise. I know the question on everybody's mind is out of Alabama. Before we get into the particulars, is it like a roll tide or is this like a splitty audience of, is it War Eagle versus,
I will say this, our industry, the construction industry in Alabama, we are dominated, by building science, Auburn grad. So I'm an Auburn grad. Charles is an Auburn grad. So War Eagle.
Ooh, all right.
Worked with a lot of Alabama fans, but
they're okay.
Yeah, just 1 week out of the year, we can't be friends, but that's all good.
I had to ask. It's
it gets pretty tough down here in the fall, man.
Especially with how Auburn's played the last.
Yeah, they've had the upper hand on us for quite a while, so
their time is coming.
We have hope, like we always do this time of year each year. So. We'll see.
Thanks for addressing the elephant in the room, pun intended, Troy.
Yeah.
So I would say before we get into our topic, I kind of want to give a little background on both of you, and then I'll let y'all add to it. But Sloan, you spent more than 25 years in construction, working in both the GC side and program management. Charles, you and I go back on the VDC pre-con space. You were in Birmingham. I was in Nashville. Doing project management, VDC, construction tech before moving into program management. So you both have like the contractor side, and now you represent the owners. So let's kind of start a bit on the career journey side of things for both of you.
So I'll go first. I, of course, graduated from Auburn University in December 2000. Went to work with a contractor out of Birmingham. Went into the field, spent a few years in the field on site, which really gave me, the short amount of time I was there, really gave me a good background and a good foundation for pre-con and estimating. It just helps you conceptualize, and then also as you're thinking through estimating man hours, time it takes to get things accomplished in the field. That's helpful. So started there, went to work for Hoare Construction after a few years in the field as an estimator. Spent a lot of my career there in hard bids, negotiated, CM at risk projects, some design build. So got a good variety of different delivery methods there through the downturn in 2008, where we were bidding just tons of work projects. We, at that point in time, people in the company said, Hoare would never bid X. Well, we did.
Yeah.
And the value of estimators in those days, I mean, the value of estimators is always, high value, but you really see it. And everybody in the company is kind of rallying around you in those downturns because, I mean, you're the lifeblood to try to bring work in, uh, along with the business development guys, of course. But anyway, spent a lot of time there. Went to work on the program management side of the business while I was at Hoare with HPM. Really loved that side. And then, and I've never left that side since. So I've been on the owner side as a program manager for the last 10 years, I guess. And a little different. I know that's what we're going to talk about today, but very well prepared. I feel like the construction side, being on the construction side, doing pre-construction, prepares you well for the owner side, but it is a mind shift that you have to take into account. So started a company in 2021. We do scout program management. We help customers, mainly K-12 customers in the state of Alabama, through the whole process, and obviously in the life cycle, the pre-con, the planning, everything, the lead up to getting to a signed contract with a GC is so critically important. And I really love what we do, love the customers we work for. It's been good to get some familiar faces, pull back together and put a team together and assemble it. Charles reached out to him. He came and joined us. And of course I knew what he was capable of, and it's been great, been a great ride, and super excited about what lays ahead of us.
Would you say that's kind of what led you into going into the owner side of things? Like program management is kind of the pre-con kind of prepared you for that?
It did, and I really loved the owner side too because in pre-con you work, especially on CM at risk negotiated projects. You're really you get a closer seat to the owner, and you kind of see that needle of the project that you can affect it. Sometimes as a young estimator, when you're just doing concrete takeoffs, you can kind of lose sense, have long days. And you're like, man, what am I really, how am I really affecting the needle? Even though you are on the owner side, you certainly see that you're more visible to how the decisions you're making are impacting an owner, a project, a general contractor, design, all the things. And obviously I like that aspect of it. That's, and I enjoy that seat.
And Charles, I know you made your way over to Scout through Sloan, but give us a little bit of your background and kind of, what led to program management for you.
So out of high school, I went to work for a steel detailer. So worked with them on producing shop drawings, whatnot for steel. Enjoyed that work. Was waiting really on my wife to get out of high school at that time to then go to Auburn. So once she did that, I rolled over to Auburn. Was not aware of the building science program, but I wanted to do something with building. So in my head, what was there was architecture. So I went through the summer op program in Auburn. Realized pretty quick that I didn't quite think how a lot of those professors want you to think. So I was a lot more analytical, a lot more rigid. So it was a blessing because through that I learned about building science. So I made it right up until the last cut, and was kind of really grateful that did not make it into that program at the end, but found building science, got into that, and realized it was a lot closer to, what I was accustomed to and how my brain kind of works. From Auburn, started at Hoare in pre-con, was there for a couple years. And like Sloan said, we went through the downturn. So we bid a lot of work. We added up, times like billions of dollars worth of work we bid in a few years. Had a pretty good clip at getting work. So it was pretty successful, but it was a grind, bidding as much work as we had to. Obviously as the economy started to turn, and it started to come back, a lot of people trying to innovate during those periods of time. So Hoare, was pretty savvy and was like, hey, what can we do? What tools can we get? How do we sharpen, those things and get ready to take advantage of this when the economy does get back where we want it to be? And so they invested in us, and we started looking at VDC, virtual design and construction. We were looking at models. We were trying to figure out how to estimate from those. So, went from working off hard bids now, hey, now we're looking at budgeting and stuff like that, and how we can plan ahead and kind of save those things. So did that, then moved over to Doster Construction and went straight BDC there. So BIM, coordination, drones, that kind of stuff. Did that process with them for about 5 years, and then Sloan and I reconnected, professionally, and now I'm back at with him at Scout and on working more on the owner side. So it's been different for me on this side because through my career, have not had a lot of owner face time, obviously. So it's been really cool to spend times with these guys and see what their needs are and really be a lot more open and proactive to addressing those with them. So
Yeah, I think on that note, what surprised you most about like moving from the construction contractor's perspective to that owner perspective when you got to Scout?
our clientele is really, I mean, we're K through 12 primarily. They're just real people,
Yeah.
with real problems. A lot of the guys we work with are, down to earth guys. A lot of the systems we work in, I know one in particular, St. Clair County. One of the things we talked about with them is like, it's been a long time since they built a building, so they didn't have anybody, on staff that was around when the last building they built was. So they had no idea how the construction process worked,
Yeah.
so having somebody with that, knowledge, for them that works on their behalf, was valuable for those guys. I mean, it's, there's real people and, they're just like us.
When people hear like, before the bid, um, a lot of things could come to mind, especially if you're not necessarily in pre-construction. They may think about, the final days or weeks, just right before drawings are issued, right, or something like that. But in reality, it probably begins, much earlier than that, especially for you guys. I mean, when are you seeing, like, when does an owner really start to begin influencing this eventual bid result that they see?
In our world, in the K-12 market, it really happens sometimes several years before. They own their own buildings, so they're doing facility assessments of those buildings. They're required to update that and keep that maintained. So they'll do facility assessments, and of course, their enrollment numbers are changing. They're projecting enrollment. Working with the local municipality, looking at subdivisions being annexed by city council. So they really have a long reach before it ever gets to bid day, looking into what their need is. So they'll do
Yeah.
a capital plan that eventually informs a capital plan, and then let's just say they say, okay, we've got to have a new middle school. Well,
Hmm.
that's a long ways out. Then there's a funding source. It starts there. Once the need is established and they know they need a facility, then the funding source has to get nailed down. Well, how do they do that? Is that a mix of local funds that they have on hand? They go out to the bond market. Is there a donor? All those things, all that work begins early on, trying to get the funding source for the stated cost limitation. So that's been really cool on our
Yeah.
side. We just opened a high school that we completed in this past February with Doster, and we got on that assignment in 2019. So we start, the school board hired us to help them with the process, and of course, COVID hit during that time. They didn't have enough funds from the bond that they had went out and secured. We couldn't keep up with the rate of construction costs that we all saw during that time frame. Then their property changed. It wasn't conducive, and they swapped and wanted to move it. So then that's the other thing is sometimes property acquisitions. So we get to see a lot of that happening early before we ever get to the first programming meeting,
Yeah.
pitching out a design.
How do they? So you get you mentioned budget but they define the need first. How do they ultimately decide on the budget? I mean, do they have to talk to and get some bids or some quotes first to determine, like, are they in the right ballpark with figuring out how much budget they can actually spend for the school size of school or facility they're trying to build? Like, is it cart before horse thing, or do they just say, "Hey, we need a school. Let's go out and get some pricing, and then we'll decide if it's something we can do or not"?
Oh no, they've got to have that pretty well nailed down early. They have to know what their actually they have to know if they're going to go out to the bond market. They have to know what their debt service to that bond, what they are capable of having debt service monthly to service that bond. To go out and get that municipal bond or whatever. So, and that's a function of their in-house accountants and how much debt service are they currently having? When will it roll off? And they'll have capacity to bring on new. So they really have to have a good temperature for what they can afford to be able to go do. And then once they've got that point established, then they've got to figure out, okay, here's our enrollment numbers. We need a middle school that can service this many kids with this many programs. So, all right, then we got to help them with analytics. And design teams are great about doing this too. So you can go back and say, okay, well, each kid, this many kids means you need this size of square footage of facility. You need this program and this program. And so we literally start budgeting with, we've all heard the term back of the napkin budget or whatever. It's really like that. It's
Yeah.
a 6-line item budget that we start with. And then the other component too is obviously, we talk about it in this term. I don't know if this is necessarily an industry term, but we call it hard cost and soft cost.
Mhm.
So obviously, if you're going to spend, $40 million on a project on a school, as far as what would the GC would contract to, well, to an owner, that's not your that's not your last need. You've got to have 15% beyond that, typically for soft costs, consultants, FF&E, wetland mitigation costs,
Material testing.
potentially property acquisition, construction material testing,
Yeah.
all those things come into play. So we try to give them an outlook on the whole nut, of everything. And sometimes when we're getting close to bid day, trying to understand what their appetite is from a cost standpoint, we'll even look at, okay, you've got these funds of $40 million. We're gonna do a bell curve on a drawdown schedule of, the contractor's not going to need all those funds day one. So when is he going to need those funds? So we'll draw that out and say, okay, that means you can invest in an account for the first year this amount of money, Mr. Owner, and you can gain that amount of interest. So that gets rolled right back in on the back end. So that's when they're for any owner, that's when their controller, CSFO, accountant has to come in and really understand those figures because it may mean whether you accept an alternate or not on bid day.
Yeah.
That's really cool. A really creative way to help them build cost in the short term to reinvest. I actually hadn't thought about that, but that's that's awesome.
Oh, we see on some sizable projects just with the reinvestment with the rates. We've seen some projects have another $3-4 million to put back in and take care of some things.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear like even that early in the game, you're thinking through the cost could be this percent more. And some of that's going to come from your construction background. You guys know these things, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be this percent more, and you have means and methods on ways for them to actually pull that cost in the short term. So
That's
that
right.
nut becomes less.
That's right. Well, and it helps you also if, just that gain on the back end of that interest when they can do that. It helps with, we all know this happens. There's unforeseens in every project that you have to, as an owner, you have to have a plan of how to account for unforeseens.
Yeah.
And those unforeseens can literally be contractual, unforeseen bad soils, or literally you hire a new principal and they want to change something, and it's an owner directed change. Those things are going to happen. Or we all know that drawings aren't getting any better, and there's design teams are forced to put drawings together 100% doc in a tighter timeline, so the quality of documents are can be challenging sometimes. So that opens the owner up for risk. So we try to just be fully transparent with them and say, hey, if you're going into this, the budget we're building for you shows some design contingency early on of some design things that are going to change. That then turns into bid day contingency because bid days can be erratic. You never know. But in addition to that, we also a lot of times make it mandatory to carry in the general contractor's contract basically a owner contingency allowance
Mhm.
that is stated, it's carried, it's on the schedule of values, and it's managed by the team. If it is going to be debited, it has to be reviewed like any change order, prime contract change order, where we review all the dollars. It's passes a sniff test, we vet it, and then debit it. So preparing owners for that, sometimes that's a tough conversation because if they don't build a lot, they're like, well, what do you mean? Why do I need that money just sitting there? And you have to walk them through. It's not a perfect world. There's things that can happen and you have to have a plan. You can't be going back as an owner to your funding source in the middle of a project, and in our case, it's getting in front of the school board again or the mayor saying, hey, well, we need another 5 million or we need another whatever.
That's got to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, you never want to be there. But I'll tell you what they do love is when we've managed that contingency well, and we get to the end of the project and we say, and we can go to a school board meeting and say, hey, great news. We're about to do a deductive change order 1 on this project, and we're going to return X amount of dollars back to the school board.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
always great. That's always great.
Tax dollars at work. I like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this because you said there's, the simple budget early on, call it like a 5-6 line item budget. We talk about things like pro forma, like cost per X or cost per square foot. You're naming some things around like the students, like the number of students they want to get to, things like that.
Right.
That early on, are you measuring those pro forma things to where that kind of carries through? Or do you not have enough information on the front end yet to actually even analyze that?
So I think I understand what you're asking. We do try to keep up with that data with prior projects, and we keep a little cheat sheet, if you will, of what we think ought to inform that pro forma from a size and scope standpoint. And it's always a good check once the design is underway. It's good to go back. I self-admit we probably need to be better about this, going back when we get that first iteration on these drawings and double checking back to what history tells us. Okay, are our classrooms 700 square feet? Or are they trending 730 square feet? Okay, well, they're trending 730. Well, why is that? So that's some discipline to go back and do that and just challenge. And, of course, you guys know you have to handle designers with velvet gloves sometimes, or a lot of times. But to do what we've been asked to do, we're always looking back at history and targeting. Yeah, it's called target. You're targeting your cost.
Right.
Is there a point in time like so that, like the bid doesn't necessarily create like the cost of the project? I mean, it does, but it's really just a cumulative effect of all these decisions that have been made along the way that got us to this cost or whatever the point that we're at. Is there a point in time where the owner or your team maybe loses the ability to make meaningful corrections to that and get it, back as
great question.
before you lose time on
Great
schedule or quality?
Yeah, the one thing we don't want to get into, and sometimes you do, is a V exercise with a general contractor. There's just so many things that can go awry there. I mean, there's a lot of times it's tough on the design team to validate and stamp those VE decisions. So what we want to do is during the design process and as we're budgeting, we're putting an estimate together, but we're also saying, hey, if you swapped this for this, there's some potential out here, some dollars out here. So we will get to a bid day, and in an ideal world, we'd like to have add alternates in a sequence that makes sense for our customer to give them some pressure relief on bid day. If the numbers are tight and and we've got some good ad alternates, it allows them to put together a pathway to get to contract with the state with their stated cost limitation.
Yeah.
So we're a big fan of ad alternates rather than deductive alternates. That can kind of just get weird for the contractor on bid day. But we do like ad alternates and showing a path to get there. The problem with ad alternates in the state of Alabama, though, with Title 39 is when you do have an alternate, you've got to announce before you open up the bids what the budget is, because that establishes who the low bidder is at that point. Once the alternates are combined all the way down, you get to whatever that announced budget was, and whoever's low on that line is your apparent low bidder. Sometimes, announcing how much funds are available. A lot of times they don't want to do that.
I can imagine.
Can get a little tricky, but no, alternates are a better way, in our opinion, than getting into a VE exercise.
I would say another thing that adds complexity on when some of those decisions can be made and can crunch that timeline is when they want the building.
Oh, 100%. We were talking about that on the ride back from this project we're involved in. A lot of times design will just take longer than initially anticipated. And sometimes that's on the owner because of, nailing the program down. Well, we got to meet with the coaches to figure out how they want the basketball court, whatever. And it can just take longer than it should. But sadly, what happens is, well, we still got to move them in for fall of 28. So guess what happens to the construction timeline? It shrinks. Yep. And our job is we are managing budget. Obviously, that's probably the first thing that everyone, you're limited on cost, but really time is a big deal also. When you don't have kids, and like in any, profit driven project, retail, especially, if you're not open when you're needing to be open, that's how you're remembered in your involvement of the project. So we definitely don't want that. So we try to put realistic schedules together just from our GC background, try to be fair, something that's doable. We look back at history to inform us with that. We'll try to rough out a schedule ourselves. We actually like to get GC participation early on, even though that, we have to get 100% documents for them to bid it. I don't mind reaching out to some people who we're courting to want to bid the job and say, hey, it's this amount of square footage. This is kind of what the project is going to be. How do you feel about 24 months? We're thinking it's a 24-month project, to try to get some sort of feedback from them. But that's something you have to manage as well, is the timeline.
Which can accelerate draws, which hurts.
And then there's also weather. I mean, contractors are going to get weather days.
Yeah.
You can't help when it rains. And then, and then there's dry out time too, contractually, so if it's above the NOAA average, it is what it is. But we try to be fair to the contractors, but also if we're in the interior of the project and the critical path is running through through finishes and it rained outside, well, didn't adversely affect your schedule. So,
right. There's so many days that maybe in the contract that above those days, they can claim those weather days. Right.
Right.
Your point, when you're dried in and it's like inside work, you really don't have an excuse for not doing the work.
You don't. And then it jumps back on the critical path at the end when you're trying to get parking down and, landscaping in to get the CO. It can happen.
You're kind of hitting on some of this stuff now. Like before the team can manage a project successfully, the owner has to define success, and you kind of help them define success. Like what I'm already hearing now is you're building. This is why I love the background from construction and program management. Like you're building such a solid and sound bridge that you're a consultant in the process. I remember when I worked on the Jonesboro job, ESA had Skibo Tarkington as a construction. I can't remember his title, but he was a designer, but construction was his background. And he was so like authentic and like so easy to work with because he knew construction, right? So you're doing the same thing essentially, but you're going further up, and ideally that makes the project that much more successful. But before the team can, make it successful, the owner has to define that success, which sounds obvious, but on time and on budget is not specific enough because the time shrinks. that impacts the potential success of the project, right? So you're kind of defining this now, but what does an owner need to define at the beginning of a project? And some of this probably goes back to our conversation on the phone, Sloan, where you're like spitting off all these things. I'm like, Sloan, hold up. You should come on the podcast and talk about things.
Yeah. No, you're right. Defining that success is so important. And even beyond budget and schedule, like some customers, we may have a customer that says, man, we built this school and I hate that the block is chipped because, we have CMU, exposed CMU in a lot of these schools. So that may be a really, those quality things, there may be some quality things that are really, pain points for customers. Well, you need to know that and you need to manage that through the design process. You need to say, okay, well, maybe we need to look at our brick suppliers. Is this particular supplier have a bad reputation for shipping out chip block to the job? And do we need to pre-qualify masons? So understanding those things is also a big piece of it, because you hit the nail on the head. Success, what we define as a successful project may be a little different than what an owner defines.
Mhm.
Now, we've had some owners who we've said, hey, you shouldn't move in this building right now. The contractor's not finished with punch list. It's a quagmire. They are telling you it's ready. It's not ready. Trust me, And sometimes the owner's like, well, okay, I just want to move in it. We want to go ahead and move in it, because he may understand something, and I'm sure they do, politically, that's outside of our sphere. And so you've got to be tuned in with your customer, with the owner, and understanding what their needs are. And the only way we found to do that is we go have lunch with them. We spend time with them off campus, try to get to be as close to them as we can. We want to be as close to the superintendent and the school board as anybody on the team, because we need to have that level of comfort with them so they can open up to us and tell us, because that's the worst thing. The worst thing is for a customer to have a pain point and be reluctant to share it with you. So you got to get past a personal barrier and get to a relationship where they're comfortable doing that.
You actually had me think of the first job site I worked on. I worked as an intern with Lindbeck over the summer in Houston. I did concrete tickets and footings and that kind of stuff. And the phrase I learned on the job site, and your example made me think of this, of the client that's like, well, you're like, it's not ready to move in. You're like, well, maybe we should move into it anyways. The phrase is good enough for government work. And I don't think it applies more than the situation right here.
Yeah. Well, and we see that a lot. Our owners, y'all know when projects are coming together, and boy, the paint's on, and boy, it's really looking good. And oh my gosh, look how good that floor looks. Our logo's in it. Man, this is awesome. This is so much better than our 50-year-old facility we're in now. But we have to say, hang on, there, you see this, you see that. And Charles is really, really good. His eye, and that's a gift. I don't have that gift like he does. He has a very critical eye, and a few other guys do on our team, and they can see things that, line and function and aesthetics don't match. And, architects are supposed to be the gatekeeper of that, but I'm going to be honest, they are beat down by the time that project gets to that point.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just ready to just roll it over and say,
yeah,
okay, I find just, so sometimes punch lists aren't as they ought to be.
Yeah. So essentially you're kind of, you're helping them understand the requirements versus preferences. And when you kind of sit down and have lunch with your owners and, whoever else, like you're helping steer or guide them. They're saying, I want these things. And it kind of falls into just one bucket. And you're like,
right.
Oh, I'm glad you like that finish. That finish is 3x the cost of this other finish. And we could really get you some cost savings and get more utility in this other, floor finish, whatever it's going to be.
That's a good segue too, because like there are times when you learn a pet peeve and like somebody wants something a certain way, but you're like, hey, contractually, you're not really owed that.
Yeah.
If you want that, it's probably going to cost you money and possibly time.
Yep.
So, you've got to help them realize, hey, is that worth, is that a want or is it a need?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And that's also where our role comes into, the general contractor in the delivery method we're involved in. They're brought into they're injected into the dance mid song at bid day. So they're behind on the relationship side with the owner. So there's times when we've got to be an echo chamber for the general contractor because it's something that the owner may be wanting that is outside the lines of the contract. So that's why we try to develop those relationships to where we can have that candid conversation with the owner and say, damn it, no, man, you can't do it. I mean, yeah, sure, if you have to pay him.
Yeah.
And, if you want to pay them, fine. But no, we can't force that, whether it's a change order thing or even quality issues. I've had a customer go around with a straight edge on all the slabs. He's like, look at this. I'm going to bring marbles tomorrow and I'm going to put marbles in all these hallways. And I said, okay. I said, here's the thing. I said, there are super flat floors out there, but that's not what you paid for. I was like, that's not what a school ought to have. That's what, an industrial facility has to have. I said, you could have that, but it'd be you wouldn't have been able to afford it with the budget we had. So those kinds of conversations are had often.
And when the GC joins the dance midstream, he may not even know the dance, right? It's like he doesn't the dance. I can't do a square dance. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's funny. When you think about, when I hear owners, we're talking about schools, mostly education, right? Your clients.
Right.
I'm thinking about multiple people involved in this whole thing, right? Not a particular owner, but you got leadership and people in facilities, and you mentioned finance, and you mentioned boards, and all these different maybe community stakeholders. When you get down to it on these decisions that have to be made, I mean, who is actually responsible for making these final decisions that you guys are talking about?
Great point. So that's one of the things we try to establish early is a communication plan with our customer. Once we get a contract with them and we establish, okay, who is how does that chain of command need to work? Because a lot of times we'll have school board members say, hey, I want you to change this or let's do that. And we loop back and say, okay, I will carry that up the flagpole to the facility director and the superintendent and Mr. School Board member. If they are good with that, we'll move earth to make it happen. So that's important. You have to have a communication plan on who makes the final decision. And then we have to also sometimes, we talk about this all the time. We have to, we can become very emotionally tied to how we feel a decision should be made. Like, for instance, sometimes, something might not be quite right, but the owner's like, I just, I don't want to die on this hill. Let's just give them that change request, even though it may not be, even though we feel like they got a good position to bat it back. It's our job to give the recommendation and to let the owner know what his position is contractually, what the contract documents require. Giving context on the situation, where he sits in his budget and all the parameters. But ultimately we say, here's what we recommend, for this particular situation. But it's their call. And we have to, it's not what we think or the way we want it to go. We got to get over that real quick and move on,
Yeah. Was that something you guys had, or you had to do or learn maybe the hard way the first time, this whole communication plan?
All this stuff is from scholars. Man, we're slow learners.
Yeah, I'm going to say there ain't many people in construction that learn it the easy way.
No. But, one thing that's good for our group is we're deployed. We're all out and about on all these project sites, but we communicate regularly with one another. Every Monday, we're going to have our staff calls and we're going to go through projects. And then a lot of that is just talking through scar tissue issues from the previous week or what we see is coming. And we lean on one another quite a bit. We're a flat organization. I mean, we're more like a football team than anything, trying to just advance the ball. So.
And you all play different positions. You might be back one day, you might be the receiver one day, right?
Yep. And I try to let our customers know too. I mean, Jay and I own the company, but look, there's a lot of guys in our group that we're the dumbest when it comes to a lot of things. And so I'll try to let our customers know, hey, well, I'm gonna get Charles to come do your punch list because I suck at it.
I'm not going to sit here and call you dumb, Sloan, but I appreciate the humor.
Oh man, I do. I feel like a lot of meetings I go to, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm the dumbest dude in this room, but I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. So hopefully they don't catch on.
We touched on this a little bit. We talked about budget, but so one of the most common early mistakes is treating the construction estimate as though it represents the entire project budget. What needs to be included in a true owner's project budget?
That's a great question. Obviously, the soft costs that we were talking about, you got to capture those. However, you need to understand the funding source that is funding the project. And is there any other sources out there that they plan on funding parts and pieces with? Like, say they got to purchase the land. Well, are they going to do that out of our stated cost? Do we need to account for that? That happened to us.
Yeah, because a lot of times they do that out of general funds and not the project.
Yeah, we found out on one of our projects that, unbeknown to us, that the owner used those funds to purchase the property to the tune of $500,000. So we're projecting, this savings, and we're like, whoa, wait a minute, where'd that come from? So, all those costs outside of your contract with the general contractor and any other prime contract, obviously your architect fees, program management fees. Of course, we liked, we in a few decisions can save money and change the trajectory and pay for our services. We've seen that happen over and over again. But construction material testing, FF&E, commissioning, in the state, in our sector, projects over a certain size, they have to be HVAC commissioned. So we have a pretty robust scope that we go through with the customer, and we'll assign values on all of that. But that's just as important though as nailing down as the sticks and bricks cost, because we need to know a pretty decent number on furniture. Furniture can cost a couple $1,000,000 easily.
Well, and they sometimes different owners have different stomachs for what they want to buy themselves. Like, some guys, they're going to do all the networking themselves, all the low voltage stuff and stuff like that. So that's going to be on the soft cost side. And then some other guys like, hey, I want to buy it. It needs to all be included. So,
Right.
you may buy a project and it's going to have TVs, network, it's going to have all your audio, all that stuff in the project. The other guys are going to be like, no, I think I can save a little bit of money and I'm willing to do that work. So I'm going to buy the weight equipment. I'm going to buy all this stuff on my own to save me, 5-10% on the soft cost side. So sometimes scope that's on the soft cost on one project and hard cost on another project.
That's right. Good point.
Yeah. I gotta think there's a lot of times too where you guys are having to educate these owners on, they may have a number already in mind that they're thinking for this budget, and maybe it doesn't come from a complete understanding of that particular project. Maybe it's based on older projects, or maybe a project that's just slightly different, but the cost impact can maybe be significant. Do you guys have to give a little bit of education, at least from time to time, to these boards as you're talking to them?
Troy,
We do.
Sloan, you were nodding and Charles was doing this because Sloan was listening to the question and Charles was thinking of the example that just happened recently, probably.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we do, because our customers, I guess some big systems build all the time, but we may have a customer that hasn't built a school in quite a few years. So,
Yeah.
$200 a square foot would build you a school years ago, but not today. So
Can't even build a house for that. I mean,
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I know, right?
We've been in the industry now for a while, but it sometimes it doesn't feel like that long until you look back. But I mean, what schools are going for now used to be the unit cost we would do clean rooms in hospitals.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy, the dollar per square foot. And the market, like y'all, I'm sure y'all have seen, I mean, it's crazy volatile right now. I mean, there's times where, we think we're going to have a big time budget issue, and then the market hits just right and it dips at the right time and we're good. But like Sloan says, we've had to include these pressure relief valves of, hey, we've had one as crazy as like, hey, we may not put a cafeteria in this project. An alternate was to take the cafeteria out or put it in, because it was,
Dang.
the market was that high when we started budgeting it, and it caught just right and it was able to be in the project. I mean, it's
Wow.
That's why we try to include a design or bid day contingency in these projects. Because I'll give another example. We were bidding a project in 2023, and it's $100 million high school, and 2 bidders, 2 GCs that were pre-qualified. We had 5 pre-qualified, and all of them bailed except 2. And we found out before the bid there was only one electrical subcontractor bidding the job, only one electrical number to be had. So, I mean, you naturally know that your electrical budget just got hosed from what we were budgeting all along because of, opportunity there. But
I'm envisioning
that's drive you nuts.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain to owners sometimes.
Well, semantics too was a thing too. So when you talk dollar per square foot or project cost, some people only can do the construction like we talked about. Some people do construction minus allowances, so like
Oh, right.
understanding, hey, when an owner tells you I've got $35 million, is he talking construction or is he talking total program?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually envisioning your example now, Charles, of VEing a cafeteria out of the project and throwing some picnic tables outside. That'd be a
Hey, food
That's
trucks.
what I was wondering. How are they going
Taco
to feed these kids?
and talk about if you have to do that, what the community would say about that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh, they would roast
Well, and
those.
that's
There's no
also
way.
goes back to what we talked about earlier. You have to understand from your customer, from the owner side, what are the sacred cows? We're
Yeah.
building, like, for instance, they may be saying, hey, we're going to do this outdoor practice facility, but we got to throw a bone to the, to the band people and the people in the arts. So we have to have the performing arts. We can't not do the performing arts and do the practice facility because it would be, pitchforks and would not be good. So understanding that the lay of the land is very important.
So I mean, what happens though? Like when you've got this, I guess, desired scope, right, that the owner has, and all of a sudden, budget's not aligning. I mean, what happens?
We try to identify that earlier. The goal is identify that misalignment long before bid day or before bid day, so you can have a plan. They got to go get more funding, or
that happen.
we had that happen on. Matter of fact, at Benjamin Russell High School, we were budgeting it, and I told them, I'm like, guys, you don't have enough funds and they had already gone to the bond market. And we said, you don't have enough with this, what you're trying to build. It's not going to work. We've got to do something. We either got to reduce square footage, and we're not talking about swapping, LVT for VCT. We got serious square footage issues here. Program change.
Concrete.
Yeah. So you're either going to have to change this program or get more funding.
Yeah.
And so we were the sole voice saying that at that time. The design team was marching right along.
Wow.
And would have gotten to bid day with a design that would have been blown out of the water with, a public bid opening and a school board standing around like, wait a minute, we only got $55 million and this thing came in at this outrageous price.
Yeah.
So those days we had history and we were, touching the market.
So the budget process we try to do, we want to come at it top down and bottom up. So we want to target based off of uniformat from cost history that we try to capture in old schedule values.
Mm-hmm.
And then we try to, once the documents are far enough along, put a detailed budget together like if we were a GC doing a CM at risk project like we used to do.
Yeah.
So we'll go through that effort and try to come at it both ways and look at it and, put a contingency with it and see what we get.
Yeah.
And sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we miss it on bid day. We do. But here recently, we've been pretty daggum good.
Yeah.
Pretty good at nailing it and getting within reason,
When you miss it on bid day, what happens next?
A couple of things. On one project, they went back out to the bond market and got a little extra funds. We had alternates available as pressure releases, but they didn't. They were like, nope, we're going to have this multi-purpose facility. We're going to go talk to our bond guy and see what kind of debt service we can take on additionally to what we thought we were going to do. based on sales tax projections for the city and their arrangement with how much they give to the school. Anyway, they go back and look at, sharpen their pencil on the funding side. So that can happen. And then the other side or combination of is you go through and start developing, some of those VE items you identified in the design process.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey, okay, well, we talked about this in these meetings and y'all wanted to leave it in here. We should probably revisit this.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we actually gave in one scenario, the GC, a run up on VE. We said, hey, here's our list of things we saw in design that we think might be good things for y'all to chase down. Y'all got to own it. And there's nothing, you're not going to hurt our feelings if you don't, but here's a ramp up to get you going.
Mm-hmm.
And they were thankful to get that. A lot of them they pursued, and it generated some real dollars, and some of them they came up with their own. And so come at it with a team approach to try to get the thing within budget.
And I would say, you know how it is, in the industry, what you try not to have is it have to go back for rebid. If at all possible, you don't want it to go back to rebid, because when you do that, people lose faith in it being an actual project.
Correct.
And the interest on the GC side goes way down.
Yep.
I mean, we would see that, when we were at GCs. I mean, you'd know too. I mean, it'd be a private job, and they'd come and you'd figure out this walking in the doors that, oh, we know Brassfield had it, and then we heard, BL had it, and it's been around to 3 or 4 contractors. So it's like, we're just going to pencil whip it because we know it's not real.
Yeah.
I feel like they teed it up perfect, Trey, for talking about team alignment.
Well, I was going to say team alignment, but I was going to measure this, or probably lump this into a separate section because we're coming up on time. What I was going to say is and this could be part of the advice, because I feel like you guys are giving lots of really solid advice to the market through your experiences, which is the goal. That said, we literally have a section here for advice directly to owners. And part of that in that question, what I would say is you've been on a lot of different teams with different designers, different GCs, different owners, right? Different projects. I know K-12, whatever, but you've also been on the builder side. What makes a good team? And it's not that you're picking the team, but this is if I was an owner, I would want to know, how do I pick designers and GCs and my program management partners so that we have a successful project? Y'all have probably been on a variety of projects that have, probably been successful. I'm not saying they haven't been, but maybe the culture dynamic has been different, right? So I would point that question to you guys, what makes a good team? But then also, generally speaking, from both of you, what advice would you give directly to owners?
If you're not in the business of building on the regular, you better have somebody who is in your staff that you hire directly on staff, or someone with some experience that can help you navigate. Because contractually, as an owner, you're contracted to an architect, a design team, you're contracted to a general contractor. At some point in time, they're going to start doing it in the project. They're going to point fingers at one another. Mm-hmm. And you got to have somebody on your team. And if you have that person on staff, that's awesome, that can step in and say, okay, I don't have a dog in this fight, but I can help understand what's going on and see what decision needs to be made. So that's important. And as far as design teams, obviously the concepts are sexy. The renderings are where designs are chosen and all that's good. But the ugly part of it, who is the person you're going to send out to my project for 2 years while it's being constructed?
That's right.
And who is sitting in my OAC meetings as my architect and guarding me for the quality and looking at the dollars, and who's that person and what's their dynamic like? That for me, as an owner, I would sitting in this seat, if I was advising an owner, I would put weight on that for sure.
Well, the who points to a person, by the way, right? It's businesses exist, but you're pointing towards people first.
Yes. Exactly, because a lot of times what we see is, and look, we're all busy. If it can be someone very talented, the best they are, but if they're overwhelmed, you're just, you can just get bombarded with change order requests to review, and how much scrutiny can people have families, and I get it. So you got to make sure if it's not just a person, the team that you're going to have when the slugging starts happening in construction, how can you make sure a design team that you don't get overrun by a general contractor and you are actually being able to keep up with the need and getting submittals turned around and, not having RFIs hang out there. And then on the contractor side, we go through a pre-qualification process in the state of Alabama because we're bound by Title 39. But let's just pretend we're not, and we're in Georgia or any other state, and the owner can pick their general contractor. Obviously, resume, but that staff, that superintendent, that project manager, I would want to, get a good comfortable feeling with their capabilities, the type of people they are, what kind of support they're going to have. How many, are you putting just one superintendent out here and he's got to do everything, look at everything? What's the management plan on the daily in construction from the general contractors?
It sounds like I'm sitting here thinking like, I've always heard of owner reps and things like that. And maybe some companies or owners just think they're maybe for certain parts of the industry. I was just sitting here thinking as you were talking, like if I was this wealthy business owner and I wanted to build something, I might just think, well, I'm going to go out and build this, whatever office complex I want to build. And I might just hire a designer, hire a general contractor. And there's probably lots of them that just build it. But maybe their first call should maybe be just a company more like yours. If you don't build regularly,
we appreciate the plug.
It seems like I'm just thinking like to some people, is there a misalignment where people think that, hey, this type of company is great for healthcare, or maybe it's good for a school system. But I could see where this is valuable for just people. You mentioned people, if you don't build regularly, you may want to have somebody on your team that can speak to the general contractor for you. Because if not, it could be very easy to get lost in the weeds.
You can. We just finished an assignment. It was a private school, and they're able to, in Alabama, they're able to pick their general contractor and their design team. I was helping out on that project. Charles and I were helping them out in a very limited fashion, helping the owner in a very small fashion. We would just go to meetings and we would review change order request, and just to be another sanity check for them.
Mm-hmm.
We were literally just keeping up with our time and invoicing them at an hourly rate. It was very minimal cost. Actually, no, we were doing some of that pro bono to help them out. But anyway, there's a need there. There's a need there if you're an owner that you're not used to understanding what contingencies are, how to read and understand drawings and risk and sequences of construction, whether you should pay for a change order or not. You need to have someone who can help you through that. And if you've got a strong architect that can do that, fantastic. Or someone on staff, great. But if not, you need it.
If not, reach out to Scout. Is that your
Yeah, happy to help. Happy to help.
Well, I would say on our side too, some of the misconceptions we get is like, oh, if we've got a big project, we need them. Sometimes your small projects have more holes in them than your big projects, because they haven't as much, thought put through them because they are small. Or it's small enough that's like, say you're doing a roof replacement and you're touching some mechanical units and having to move them. Well, now you're getting into a factor where, hey, you're going to hire a roofer that's going to act as a general contractor, and he doesn't typically do that. So him learning how to pick mechanical units off a building and all that kind of stuff, like sometimes those small projects can hurt you worse than you think they're going to. So having somebody that can help you find those blind spots, even on small projects, is worth it.
Yeah, I believe that to be 100% true. Just speaking personally, I remodeled my basement. Kind of handy. I know my way around construction a little bit. I made some decisions at design and layout that once everything got too far along for me to change it. And so I had to finish my project in a manner that I wasn't entirely happy with. I could only imagine at a large scale where this could be a major problem if you don't do this every day and you either pick the wrong contractor or the wrong design team, and they can't help you out of it. And so having someone like you guys come along just seems invaluable, to a team.
And that's why Troy still hasn't showed me pictures of his basement.
But that wall right there, that is good work.
It does. It looks good.
It looks okay.
What's the black and white in the background, Troy?
Oh,
The black and white photo.
oh, that's just an AI photo. It's for our it's like a bid board and a bid team, and it's got like proper precon and stuff up there. It's just so something for the set. So the basement looks good. It looks good. You know, and for most people looking at it, they'd probably go, "Oh yeah, that's I like that. It looks all right." But there's little things in there that I know, and I can't fix them because I'm like, man,
no.
dang it,
That's the bad thing. you know where all the gremlins are.
they are unfixable.
Yeah.
I mean, anything can be fixed for the right price, but I'm not tearing the whole thing out just to fix that. But I'm
No.
like, so you guys are talking stuff. I'm this whole time I'm relating this back to me, going,
Yeah.
Geez Louise. I mean, this is why people hire contractors in general, but at a large scale, what you guys do is so valuable in the market. I mean, Charles, I mean, when you were talking about that, I mean, what do you think, like, if someone's going at it alone, what's a question that the owner should ask the project team at these major design milestones? I mean, is there certain things they should just always be asking as they're going through this process?
During construction or before construction?
Let's say, I mean, I guess that's before.
He just, it's kind of like Sloan said. I mean, you a lot of times, from what I have seen, in the nature of people being busy, meetings are had, wishes are shared, and sometimes those don't always make it to the drawings. So you have to, if you have stated something you like or want or need, keep doing that until you know it's in there.
And I'll add too, something simple that has helped us a lot is, we to his point, we'll go to design meetings in the past and we try to take our notes and communicate that back over. And sometimes they don't get incorporated, but simple things as like an AI tool for capturing meeting minutes has been wonderful for us. Just to make sure we are capturing all the decision points and all of the things that the team has agreed upon, because people are busy and there's a lot of handoff of the football from the architect to his consultants, the mechanical engineer, probably not at that meeting. However, we need to make sure that he incorporates what we're doing. So many opportunities for things to fall through the cracks. So yeah, I'd say to making sure along the way during design that the decisions made during programming and the systems that have been decided upon from your facility people, as simple as we've been in meetings where we've heard, I do not like this type of mechanical unit. I can't work on them.
Yeah.
And guess what happens when we review the specs on bid day as they're getting ready to go to bid day as the 3 approved equals? There they are.
Yeah.
It's an example of how, little things like, and something like that can make an owner furious.
Oh God, yeah.
Especially if we don't catch it and the guy on bid day ends up with it and he says, "Oh, my mechanical guy, here's my submittals. They are, this manufacturer of equipment." And the owner's like, "What? We talked about this,"
Yeah.
Well, guys, look, I would love to keep going, but I'm renting a free WeWork right now, and I think I need to get out of here soon. I'm just going to put it that way. So I think we need to jump to the Fast Five and kind of close this out. So let's jump there, and then we always do this. We skip a whole lot of content that we want to get to, but the reality is there's much more like insight in the rabbit trails than just staying on topic. So this is why we do this, and I think we went there. So we may ask you this again for what that's
Plus,
worth.
it gives us. Yeah, I was going to say, it gives us a chance for you guys to come back if you'll do it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I like the afternoon too. Next time I'll join you guys on the bourbon sipping.
Me 3.
So Fast Five, we always close with this. We want you to answer quickly. Don't even think, just go, right?
That is hard. My personality type, Trey, but we'll go.
All right. I know. Let's analyze, Charles.
Maybe we should split it, Trey, like one for Sloan.
Yeah, let's do that.
Charles,
Let's do one for Sloan.
every other,
Sloan,
you know what I mean?
Sloan, Charles. We'll let y'all both answer the last one, though. Question 1, what is the most expensive phrase an owner can say during design?
Oh man, I'm stumped. Something aesthetically related.
They ever say, like, we'll change order?
Terrazzo, something like terrazzo or something. Oh no,
That sounds like an unsafe word.
Yeah, I know.
Question 2, Charles, what is one document every owner should insist on receiving throughout pre-construction?
I would say design schedule.
Boom.
Love that. All right. Question 3, Sloan, which creates more project risk, an unrealistic budget or unrealistic schedule?
Unrealistic budget.
Question 4, Charles, that worked out 2 ways. What is one sign that a project team is truly aligned?
You can feel people's guards drop. People are able to speak candidly. You can feel and tell when people are being honest and feel like they're able to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't remember what episode it was, Trey, but I feel like we had a similar question to that before. And I feel like we got a similar answer, which is kind of cool to hear reinforced like that. So,
yeah, that's great. And our permanent closer for each of you, the pre-construction team that figures out blank will have a massive advantage in the next 5 years.
I would say how to harness historical cost and key project metrics in a very organized fashion and leverage it.
Love it. The data play. Charles, what's yours?
I'd have to second that. I mean, that's what we've been working on.
We reinvent the wheel way too much.
Yeah.
We got to get better at that as an industry.
Yeah.
well, the big takeaway from today seems that owners have just a ton of influence over project outcomes, maybe more than they realize going into it. But the influence, it's greatest, it seems to me, when it's early in the project, when they still have options. You guys can still keep them out of hot water, keep them from making bad choices, things like that. So that communication and that sort of let's get to know each other very quickly, develop this communication plan, establish all that early on seems like that's going to be the greatest chance of success is when everybody's aligned, when you guys are and them are aligned early on some of those decisions.
The bid, and to kind of build on that as a bid, it's not the isolated event, right? It reflects the quality of the planning, communication, budgeting, design management, all the decision making, all that stuff that came before it, right? So the earlier an owner defines those priorities and establishes an honest budget, aligns, all that kind of stuff that we discussed earlier, the more control they retain over the project. Charles, thank you guys for joining us, sharing your owner's perspective. I really love, again, the bridge from construction to owner and kind of how you guys can really enable that consultative approach. Where can people learn more about Scout program management?
Look us up online, scoutpm.com. You can find us on Facebook also, LinkedIn. Scout PM is our company and pretty easy to find.
Great.
Let us know if we can help you anyway. Be happy to.
That's awesome. And the Proper Precon Podcast is always is powered by Edify. So I'll just make that plug here as well. We are running out of time, so I'm not going to speak about Edify at this point. We're just going to put this thing out so you can learn more about Scout program management at scoutpm.com. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this podcast. And until next time, keep building pre-construction properly.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you guys for what you're doing.
Yeah, appreciate it. Check us out at properprecon.com if you're listening. Subscribe at all the channels, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast from. We'll see you guys later. Thanks a lot.